The movie begins with a helicopter landing in front of a facility. After landing, the helicopter opens and a black car drives out. Professor Kupelweiser exits the parked car and is ushered into a building by mysterious men. Meanwhile, Albert and Max, two additional people, are washing their hands in a restroom when suddenly, the mirror breaks right in front of them. Albert observes that this is a worrying omen. After that, Albert, Max, and Kupelweiser show up at the location to participate in an interview on the first hibernation experiment that the physician will carry out. Albert then explains his noble motives for volunteering for the experiment with his extended family watching from home. Meanwhile, Max takes the microphone and says his reasons are that danger always attracts him. On the other side, his wife holds a knife while watching from home and suggests he's just doing it for the money and doesn't buy his story. The interviewer then humbles Max, asking if he isn't afraid. She also tells him of the dangers they need to consider. Kupelweiser then agrees that there's a lot that can complicate the experiment. In the past, the professor successfully induced hibernation in a chimpanzee for 1.5 years. In contrast to the chimpanzee, Max and Albert will hibernate for 3 years. The reporter ends the interview by saying that she feels today is an important day for humanity and science. After a short period has passed, the two guys make their way to the lab, where they prepare for their hibernation. Max looks to be quite relaxed, while Albert is focused and concerned. Then, they proceed to the hibernation pods. When they lay inside, Max tricks one of the scientists and smuggles a hip flask and a few cigarettes out from his shorts. The pods then close over them and into the wall. At that point, the timer starts counting down the remaining time they will be in the pods. After some time has passed, Albert and Max awaken from their hibernation. Then, they find that they can't see anything, including the 4 individuals standing over them while wearing white masks. After that, the person with the white mask says this is usual after hibernation. Both men then state that they're interested in discovering whether the experiment is complete, and the ones dressed in white explain to them that it already had. Next, Albert and Max wake up in their chamber, sitting on their white beds. The hibernation has had some adverse effects on them, but they don't seem too concerned about it. Suddenly, the door to the room opens to admit 3 women with trays of food. Max tries to joke with him, but the woman doesn't laugh. He then complains that his croissant is stale, so a woman twists the croissant open, revealing it's just a container that the actual food is inside. Even knowing how to eat the food, the men still find it tasteless. The women then tell them the food is to help them adapt. On the other hand, Max and Albert are operating under the assumption that this is another experiment component. After the women have left, Max returns to the pod to recover the smokes he sneaked inside before the experiment. Meanwhile, Dr. Lamia watches Max and Albert through the surveillance monitors in another room. She observes as they light the cigarettes, but is unaware of what they're doing until the smoke detectors go off. After that, additional women rush into the room to see the monitors themselves. The computer informs them that the guys are smoking tobacco, a product that has been extinct since 1996. In the room, Max and Albert are enjoying their cigarettes, talking about the interviews and autographs they will give in a few days. Suddenly, 2 women run into the room with fire extinguishers. They quickly spray the 2 down with foam, leading the men to conclude that smoking is forbidden. When they meet Lamia, Max wants to see Kupelweiser. According to her, Kupelweiser didn't exist, causing Max to be upset because he thought they would be considered heroes after the experiment. However, Lamia tells them they should feel lucky even to be alive as the war has taken precedence. At that moment, Dr. Berna, responsible for the whole division, enters the room confirming everything Lamia had told them. Max tells the 2 doctors he wants to speak to the person in charge, to which Berna says she's listening. Max then clarifies that he'd rather speak with a male. Later, they tell them that it isn't possible because no other males exist, for men have long been extinct. Max then scoffs as he is confused, saying they're not mammoths to be extinct. When they inquire about the date, they learn it is 2044, and they have been asleep for 53 years. Deciding this must be a side effect of hibernation, they relax and decide to leave. However, they're electrocuted by the door when they try to exit. After that, Albert tries to convince himself that this is all part of the experiment, to which Max agrees. because according to them, there's no way women can continue to reproduce if men had ceased to exist. Meanwhile, Lamia informs them over the speakers that they had used parthenogenesis, a form of reproduction that didn't require men. In their surveillance room, Berna warns Lamia to be careful and not to interact with the men too much. While Lamia observes them, she is taking notes on Max and Albert through the screen, and the computer reminds her to take her pills, which she does. In the night, Albert and Max come to terms with the truth that they, along with everyone else they know, have perished along with the world they once knew. Max kisses Lamia the following day when she checks on them, which prompts her to tell Max that kissing women is unhygienic and tells him not to do it again. When Max tries again, she quickly knocks him to the floor and exits the room. She begins behaving weirdly in the corridor, which causes the other women to become concerned. Yet she assures them that everything is all right. Next, when she arrives, she orders the guards to dress Max and Albert in uniforms and then gives them earrings that allow them to exit the room. After that, she takes the two of them to a bio-sanctuary and shows them a tree with 2 apples on it, which they consume. Then, she introduces them to Her Excellency, the organization's leader and ruler of all women. It's then they tell Max and Albert how men have gone extinct. It turns out that Kupelweiser had inadvertently created a bomb during the war that permanently destroyed the male genes. Then, Max suggests he'll help repopulate the world with men, to which Her Excellency says they don't want more men in the world. She tells them the apple tree behind her is the last of its kind, that the sacred apple tree stood in paradise until a man used it to seduce a woman. When she ends her story, she realizes that the apples on the tree are missing. She's so angry that she orders Max and Albert to return to their room. In the meantime, the thoughts of Max preoccupy Lamia. Max and Albert start planning their getaway when they return to the room. Albert starts a fire with the cables he discovered in his room, which causes the power supply to become disrupted. Max and Albert make their way out of the room as the lights go out in the building. The guards pursue them only a short time after that. They sneak out of the building by hiding in a vent and gaining access to a room where women learn how to defend themselves against men using a variety of weapons. They accidentally emerge from their hiding place in the middle of the lesson, at which point they're quickly caught and brought back. Later, the women give them one final chance. They must submit an application stating they're born men against their will. Furthermore, the application states that they agree with the shared conviction that men don't exist and never did exist. If successful, they will undergo surgery to become women. If they refuse, a trial will decide what to do with them. Then, they refuse and return to playing chess. A few seconds later, the ceiling of their room opens, revealing the trial. Frightened, the two begin searching the room for places to hide. They head for the door, only for it to open as 2 guards walk in, forcing them to sit back at the table while the audience above claps. Her Excellency opens the trial by reminding everyone that the test is top secret. They're there to decide the future of the 2 men when she opens the floor to the other members. One woman immediately speaks up to say that they can never let men oppress women again. Others cheer that men are the enemy. But Albert argues that she's exaggerating, claiming that the world wouldn't progress if men didn't exist. He also claims that they're the ones who invented progress and that all scientists and inventors were men. The women then demand examples. So Albert lists Copernicus and Einstein. Still, the women all claim that these famous people are women. The woman who speaks blames men for all the bad things that happened in history. But Albert tries to reason with the tribunal by telling them that women in this time were loved and praised, but the women don't believe him. Moments after, Albert and Max are taken out of the room for voting. Max then exclaims that they're all insane due to being deprived of men for far too long. On the other hand, the trial debates between turning men into women and killing them. The women then cast their votes one by one. While waiting, one guard falls asleep. Seeing this opportunity, Max kisses the remaining guard, who faints. Coming across from another guard, Max kisses her to stop her from blowing her whistle and alerting others, leading her to faint. Albert and Max immediately run for the elevator and the alarm blares. Later, they mobilize all the guards outside the facility. On the run, the crossfire between the facility guards and the people living in the mines catches them. Lamia eventually finds them using the trackers in their earrings and tells them that she wants to help them escape the facility. She shows them the outside world through a periscope. They're shocked to learn that everyone lives underground because the outside world is a nuclear wasteland. There were high radiation levels due to Kupelweiser's failed experimentation. Right then, Lamia turns Max and Albert to the guards, revealing that everything has been a distraction, and she has been trying to capture them all along. The two are recaptured and brought back to the facility, strapped to gurneys while the doctors prepare surgical tools. The group who captured them were the ones who had voted to kill them. They want to use their organs for transplant and the rest of their bodies to test to develop a new food source. Meanwhile, Lamia infiltrates the surgery room as a masked doctor, blacking out the room and releasing Max and Albert from their restraints. They then flee to the guard room, where Albert and Max put on suits to protect them from the radiation outside. They wonder why the women will not let them go to the surface where they can die in peace. Lamia then demands the guards give her the password to launch the capsule that will take them to the surface. However, only Her Excellency knows the password. Enraged, Max starts cursing, which activates the capsule. They then escape to the surface, and the three of them explore the wasteland. After a few steps, Max bounces off an invisible wall. Using a knife, he cuts through the wall, which turns out to be fabric, letting in bright light. Climbing through the hole, they emerge on a beach. Unbeknownst to them, Emma had taken the last oxygen suit to pursue the escape to the surface. Meanwhile, the three arrive at a forest when their suits run out of oxygen. Spotting a bird flying in the forest, Max joyously takes off his mask, saying that if the bird could breathe, so could they. The other two followed him, realizing that he had been correct. Then, they find a small house in the woods, which appears to have suffered in the war because it's full of food. Max then cooks breakfast for Lamia and Albert. Later, Lamia expresses that she's particularly excited by the fresh food since all the food underground is synthetic. In the middle of their meal, Emma shows up, demanding them to surrender or she'll fire her weapon. However, before she carries out her threat, she faints from a lack of oxygen. Albert then uses CPR on her before carrying her to the house. During this time, Emma regains consciousness and tries to escape. When Albert tries to stop her, they fall onto a TV remote, turning on the TV in the room. On TV are Berna and other government officials announcing that Lamia and Emma are dead. At first, unable to accept what she saw, Emma is hysterical. However, she eventually came to grips with it. Later, Max and Albert are relaxing in the living room, where they hear the sound of an elevator. They immediately get up and hide. The door then reveals Her Excellency stepping out of the closet. She familiarly walks through the house. When she discovers Max in her wardrobe, he and Albert jumps out of hiding and calls her. During their struggle, they discover that Her Excellency is a man disguised as a woman. Her Excellency tells Max and Albert that women took over the government after the war and forced all surviving men to undergo surgery to become women. He continues to say that he only remained a man because his mother hid him with a female disguise. Although he eventually rose to the government's top, he's too scared to do anything about the situation with men. The government kept the survivors underground despite weak radiation levels because it was easier to maintain control that way. The pills helped them control by taking away the woman's desires. Making a deal with Albert and Max, Her Excellency agrees to let them live in his home if they keep his secret. Later, Albert and Max disguise themselves as women and infiltrate the facility again. They sneak into the lab where babies are created and introduce male reproductive cells to the breakers. The movie ends several months later when a nurse wrapping newborn babies screams at seeing a baby boy